yo, Beyonce is doing her own um, solo album, and I had an opportunity to get on it, and I jumped on.
It was crazy to know that, like, I mean, she was in a group of girls who I really liked at the time too. I was like, yo, them hot.
In August 2003, 50 million people watched Beyoncé perform Baby Boy alone at the VMA. And Sean Paul was sitting in the audience humiliated as Paris Hilton turned to him and asked, "Why aren't you up there?" That wasn't a joke. That wasn't small talk. That was a sharp spotlight on something already boiling behind the scenes. Hours before showtime, Sean Paul had been pulled from the performance without explanation. Despite the song sitting at #1 and their rehearsals already being locked in, back in Jamaica, media outlets didn't pull punches. They blamed Jay-Z. The jealousy narrative spread fast. Sean himself later told the Daily Beast, "It was embarrassing and weird. I'm sitting there with my wife and Beyoncé's coming down the stairs singing our song, and I'm not up there." The very next day, he was lured to Washington, D.C. with a promise of redemption. A high-profile duet in front of 3,000 power players, an influential crowd packed with A-list industry names and political elites. He waited backstage. Hours passed. No one came to get him. And when they finally tried to rush him on stage like an afterthought, he snapped. There were 50 million people watching the VMS. "I'm not doing it." He walked out. That was the last straw for him. But for Beyoncé's team, it was just the start. This wasn't a scheduling mix-up. This was the first domino in a 2-decade blackout. It didn't stop at one canceled show. A few months later, at a live event in Scotland, something strange happened mid-performance. Sean Paul's microphone suddenly cut out. No warning, no tech issue flagged, the beat rolled on, Beyoncé's chorus looped, and his verse was erased in real time. He was left stranded on stage while her voice played on without him. Afterward, backstage, she was furious, but not at the sound crew. She pulled him aside and, according to his own account, laid into him, "These rumors with my career." She wanted to know who was fueling the speculation that they were more than musical collaborators. He told her point blank, "It's not coming from me." But the damage was already done.
We know it's crazy rumors. I'm sitting here talking to you. So she was like, rumors follow me at this time a lot. And
after that, their chemistry vanished from public view. Despite Baby Boy spending 9 straight weeks at #1, they only performed it live together 3 times. 3. For a song that iconic from 2 global artists, that number is baffling. What's more, every one of those performances came under fire from behind the scenes. Technical issues, setlist changes, and the tension between their teams palpable. This wasn't creative friction. This was political. And if Jay-Z wasn't even at the VMAs that night, who gave the order to erase Sean Paul from the stage? And why has Beyoncé never answered that question? For years, fans pointed fingers squarely at Jay. He was already dating Beyoncé at the time, and the optics were hard to ignore. Sean Paul is a good-looking global chart topper from Jamaica suddenly iced out just as his duet with her explodes. And it happens while she's entering into one of the most tightly controlled power couple brands in modern entertainment history. But when pressed, Sean Paul threw a curveball. In a later interview, he denied Jay-Z was the puppet master. It's weird. Maybe it had something to do with her management at the time. And just like that, the target shifted. How do you know I'm not a gangster or used to be a gangster?
How do you know I'm not a gangster or used to be a gangster? I've been in the music industry for 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, the industry's filled with gangsters.
Now, let's talk about her management at the time, a shadowy phrase that means far more than it says. Insiders have described Beyoncé's early solo career as a battleground, contracts, image control, micromanaged press cycles, and the team around her, many of whom were family, had a notoriously rough track record when it came to creative collaborators who got too close. That same team was responsible for the Baby Boy music video, another moment that's raised eyebrows for years. Despite being a duet, Sean Paul and Beyoncé never appear in a scene together. Not one. The entire video was spliced from separate shoots, a bizarre move for a song built on chemistry. Sean Paul later chalked it up to her creative vision, but in a separate interview, when asked if it was his idea to shoot solo, he said plainly, "No, I thought we were going to be in scenes together."
#1, 9 weeks on the Billboard chart. It's one of my biggest songs. At the time, it was like, the biggest thing I've ever.
Persistent whispers fueled by the sudden erasure, the vanishing live shows, and the visibly strained body language and rare appearances suggested something deeper. A child, not Blue Ivy, not the twins, a first child hidden from the public eye, the product of a relationship that never officially existed. It sounds extreme, but the pieces don't lie flat. If this was all professional miscommunication, why did the sabotage continue?
Some people are actually accusing her of wearing a fake baby bump.
You know, there are certain things that are so far that it doesn't even upset you. My mother, she's like, nobody's talking about my grandbaby. My grandbaby's not even.
Let's not forget, at the height of the rumors, Beyoncé confronted Sean Paul again, this time backstage at the MTV Europe Music Awards in November 2003. She was reportedly pissed, demanding answers about who was keeping the gossip alive. "These rumors with my career," she told him. It wasn't a polite warning. It was a plea or maybe a threat. And yet Sean Paul still says he wasn't the source. Meanwhile, the fan theories evolved with time. When Beyoncé later announced her pregnancy with Blue Ivy at the 2011 VMAs, conspiracy blogs erupted again, not because of what she said, but because of what people claim she didn't. Fabric folding during interviews, inconsistent due dates, and a controlled media rollout all sparked speculation that something was being hidden. Possibly not a pregnancy, but a cover-up of an earlier one. The connection back to Sean Paul was whispered but never confirmed, and no matter how much denial came from Beyoncé's camp, the speculation never really stopped. Now, with Sean Paul resurfacing in interviews, revisiting those events with new detail and a sharper tone, people are asking the same question all over again. What really happened between him and Beyoncé in 2003? Why was one of the biggest duets of the decade buried so fast? And if it wasn't Jay-Z's jealousy driving the blackout, as Sean Paul now claims, then who exactly was pulling the strings? Because while the spotlight has danced from Jay to management to PR, one thing hasn't changed. Beyoncé has never directly explained why Sean Paul was erased from her solo debut moment.
Big up to Beyoncé. She told me too that rumors follow her and thing, and all of us just
buried. The VMA snub wasn't just a scandal. It was the spark that lit the internet's wildest conspiracy. Within weeks of that 2003 broadcast, underground message boards and early gossip blogs started spinning the bizarre absence of Sean Paul into something more sinister. The fact that the baby boy video had been shot in fragments with Beyoncé and Sean Paul never sharing a single scene suddenly took on a darker meaning. To some, it wasn't just a creative decision. It was calculated distance. Whispers turned to theories. Was she hiding something? The notion of a secret pregnancy allegedly timed around the song's production gained traction not because of evidence, but because of the silence. No birth records, no denials, and no comment from Beyoncé, even as the story evolved around her. Why did you decide to announce to the world that you were having a baby in that way?
You decide to announce to the world that you were having a baby in that way?
News that's that big, it's hard to hide and keep to yourself.
Were you surprised at the reaction, or you must have been tickled at the reaction because everybody was so thrilled for you?
I felt so liberated, and I felt like, oh, I can breathe and be happy. And
Sean Paul didn't help matters by playing both sides. In a 2022 interview, he admitted the split-scene music video was probably her vision. But here's the contradiction. If it was her idea to film separately, why did that same strategy repeat itself on the VMA stage? Why was there never a follow-up performance? No Grammys duet, no international tour moment, not even a casual award show appearance, nothing. 3 total live performances of a song that spent 9 weeks at #1. That's not just rare, that's deliberate. When Radio Jamaica confronted Sean Paul in 2021 about the speculation, the interview took another turn. Host Wesley Berger brought up the now infamous theory that Jay-Z didn't want Sean Paul anywhere near Beyoncé. Instead of shutting it down, Sean responded, "Yes, to me, that was something that was apparent at the time." He quickly added, "Nothing ever happened," but the contradiction was already out. If there was nothing inappropriate, why did her team allegedly work so hard to keep him away?
I can only say as a father that I hope I instill with them the values that they would want to look for in a man. And I think I did when Beyoncé wrote on her, I think it was her first album, maybe it was the second one, the song Daddy, that she hope that she found someone just like
This brings us to the part of the story that almost no one talks about, the legal side. At the time of the VMA debacle, Beyoncé was managed by a team that would later become the subject of its own controversy. Her professional split from that management circle, one that included her father, Matthew Knoll, was described by multiple sources as tumultuous, with insiders claiming years of creative tension and power struggles behind closed doors. But to this day, no one from that 2003 team has publicly taken responsibility for the VMA cancellation. No rep has confirmed who gave the order. No one has explained why after weeks of preparation, Sean Paul was removed without warning. For years, the spotlight fixated on Jay-Z as the alleged puppet master behind the VMA snub. But Sean Paul's own words have consistently pointed elsewhere. In multiple interviews, he suggested that maybe it had something to do with her management at the time. At the surface, it sounds like deflection, but when we look at the history of Beyoncé's early solo career, the context becomes clearer. Her 2003 management team, led by her father, Matthew Knowles, was already gaining a reputation for operating more like a gatekeeping force than a traditional support system. Former insiders have since claimed that the team controlled every aspect of her schedule, creative decisions, and public persona, sometimes at the expense of collaborators and even family. Nothing happened without strategy.
There was no internet, people taking pictures of you and putting your personal life or exploiting your personal life as entertainment. I think people are so brainwashed. You get up in the morning, you click on the computer, you see all these pictures, and it's all you think of is the picture and the image that you see all day, every day.
As Beyoncé transitioned out of Destiny's Child and into solo superstardom, that team allegedly tightened its grip. PR campaigns were reportedly reviewed down to the syllable. Interview questions were pre-approved. Wardrobe choices, music video pairings, even choreography were subjected to layers of internal oversight. By the time Baby Boy was topping charts, industry veterans were already whispering that Beyoncé's management wasn't just protecting her image, they were engineering it. Some even describe the strategy as optics first, loyalty second. In that environment, keeping Sean Paul in the picture may have posed a risk, not because of what he did, but because of how the rumors around him could be spun. One of the more controversial theories that surfaced over time is that the VMA cancellation wasn't just about cutting Sean Paul. It was a test of loyalty, a high-stakes move orchestrated by Beyoncé's team to prove her dedication to Jay-Z, who was rapidly becoming more than just a partner behind the scenes. According to one former associate of Beyoncé's 200s-era label, there were internal conversations about eliminating distractions and solidifying alliances, especially when two brands as massive as hers and Jay-Z's began to intertwine. If that's true, the VMA snub becomes less about Sean Paul and more about appeasing a bigger plan, a symbolic gesture to show where Beyoncé's priorities now lay.
I know so much on how you got where you are, how you stepped on many people.
As Beyoncé transitioned out of Destiny's Child and into solo superstardom, that team allegedly tightened its grip. PR campaigns were reportedly reviewed down to the syllable. Interview questions were pre-approved. Wardrobe choices, music video pairings, even choreography were subjected to layers of internal oversight. By the time Baby Boy was topping charts, industry veterans were already whispering that Beyoncé's management wasn't just protecting her image, they were engineering it. Some even described the strategy as optics first, loyalty second. In that environment, keeping Sean Paul in the picture may have posed a risk, not because of what he did, but because of how the rumors around him could be spun. One of the more controversial theories that surfaced over time is that the VMA cancellation wasn't just about cutting Sean Paul. It was a test of loyalty, a high-stakes move orchestrated by Beyoncé's team to prove her dedication to Jay-Z, who was rapidly becoming more than just a partner behind the scenes. According to one former associate of Beyoncé's 200s-era label, there were internal conversations about eliminating distractions and solidifying alliances, especially when two brands as massive as hers and Jay-Z's began to intertwine. If that's true, the VMA snub becomes less about Sean Paul and more about appeasing a bigger plan, a symbolic gesture to show where Beyoncé's priorities now lay.
And that's the problem that I have with this whole situation. But I am going to save this conversation for Jay-Z. Jay-Z, you're watching. I know you're watching because you got people calling me. Stop having people call me. You can call me yourself. You know how to get my number. You know you got people calling me. call me yourself, because this right here is going to go viral. The way my job works on the internet, everybody's going to be clipping, sharing on TikTok. Watch this.
By 2022, nearly 2 decades later, Sean Paul was still fielding questions about it. In yet another interview, he dismissed the idea of a secret child as crazy. But the rumor wouldn't fade away, and it's not hard to see why. Beyoncé's complete silence on the matter, no comment about the VMA fallout, no mention of the original Baby Boy promo tension, not even a reflective anniversary post, has only fueled speculation. Jay-Z has never spoken on it either. And when Beyoncé's own mother later described how her daughter used wardrobe tricks to hide her pregnancy with Blue Ivy in 2011, it reignited the debate over what might have been hidden years earlier. If there was truly nothing to hide, why has no one from Beyoncé's 2003 team ever explained who gave the order to pull Sean Paul from the stage? By 2024, fan forums had taken things to another level entirely. Some users began connecting the dots between the early Baby Boy era and the emotional arc of Beyoncé's later Lemonade project. In that album, jealousy, secrecy, and betrayal are recurring themes delivered in a tone that felt deeply personal, not just artistic. A theory began circulating that the jealousy narrative surrounding Jay-Z and Sean Paul had always been a diversion, that what looked like possessiveness was actually protection of an image, a timeline, maybe even a secret. The idea wasn't that Jay-Z was threatened by Sean Paul romantically. It was that something had already happened before Jay-Z came into the picture fully, and it needed to be buried to protect what came next. That theory, wild as it sounds, gained traction because of how cleanly it explained the pattern. Separate shoots, the performance cancellations, the backstage tension, and the sudden erasure of one of Beyoncé's earliest collaborators. Add in the fact that Sean Paul was quietly distanced while other male collaborators like Slim Thug, Shakira, and Usher appeared with her freely across the decade, and the contrast became hard to ignore. Why was Sean treated like a liability?
Still. And then you have celebrities like a Jay-Z. And this is where I think the whole fallout with the Beyoncé, she's just kind of in the crosshairs because of all of what's going on in the media with respect to Jay-Z and stuff. But with Jay, you know, when he complained at the Grammys about the Grammys not giving Beyoncé Artist of the Year, when she's the most decorated Grammy-winning artist ever, we invited him to be honored at our award show.
And then there's the matter of timelines. Beyoncé's first pregnancy wasn't publicly announced until the 2011 VMAs. Again, a stage reveal, this time choreographed down to the final beat. But just before that reveal, blogs began questioning her due date. Footage from a behind-the-scenes video appeared to contradict the timeline she had previously shared. Fans did the math, and in the margins of those discussions, the old Baby Boy rumors crept back in. Was Blue Ivy really her first, or was she simply the first child Beyoncé chose to make public? It's important to note that no hard evidence has ever confirmed the hidden child theory, but that hasn't stopped speculation from evolving into full-blown investigative threads with thousands of comments, timestamped, receipts, and side-by-side breakdowns of interviews, lyrics, and early public appearances. The question isn't just did something happen, it's why was so much effort spent to pretend nothing ever did. 20 years later, the only thing we know for sure is this. Someone made decision that night to erase Sean Paul from Beyoncé's biggest solo debut, and no one has ever taken responsibility. So now we are asking you, was the VMA snub just a petty power play or the first crack in a carefully engineered public persona? Did Sean Paul get caught in a love triangle or in something much more carefully hidden? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because the truth may not be where we're looking. Until next time, keep watching closely. In Hollywood, nothing stays buried forever.